Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. After a few weeks break, we were very excited to get on the road and spend the next few days in the van, this time in epic Scotland. From heavy rain, strong winds and flooded roads to breathtaking views, it was definitely a trip to remember. Join us in this episode where we explore the southwest coast of Scotland, the famous SWC 300. Scotland was on our list for some time now, and having only a few days off work, we decided to explore the southwest coast. The SWC 300 is a circular route that follows Scotland's south coast of Dumfries and Galloway, then up the west coast and across through Scotland's highest village. We started our journey from an overnight stop at this very pleasant motorhome stopover just south of Dumfries. This is a free park up next to the Boathouse restaurant, allowing campervans and motorhomes to stay overnight. After breakfast, we made our way down south to Caerlaverock Castle. This is the only triangular castle in the whole of Britain, first built in the 13th century. Unfortunately, due to rain and mud, we could not walk around, but it's one of those places where you would enjoy much more on a sunny day. On the next part of the journey, we drove through Castle Douglas to Kirkcudbright, a small town which sits on the banks of the River Dee. This is the only town on the Solway coast with a working harbour. We stopped in a little car park in the town centre. The rain was pretty bad that day, and when we thought the weather wouldn't get any better, the clouds suddenly cleared, revealing the most amazing sunset. Kirkcudbright is also known as the artist town, when it became popular among Scottish artists in the late 19th century. Driving in the sunset, we headed for our final stop that day, the Isle of Whithorn, and after a hot meal we decided to settle in for the night and explore this part of Scotland the next morning. The next morning we woke up to a beautiful sunrise on the Isle of Whithorn. We parked up right at the seafront, where you will find few allocated spaces for campervans. Isle of Whithorn is a beautiful seaport harbour and also the location of the ruined 13th century St. Ninian's Chapel. Although the winds were extremely strong, we stayed for a while enjoying the views. After leaving the Isle of Whithorn, we continued along the coastline to the Mull of Galloway, the southernmost tip of Scotland. This stretch of the road runs almost entirely along the coast, with beautiful views across the sea, with sandy beaches, rugged cliff tops and charming towns and villages along the way. The route to the lighthouse eventually turns into a single-track road that runs for a few miles. The views from here are beautiful, but the clouds were gathering on the horizon and the wind was getting stronger, so after a quick coffee break and a look around the lighthouse, we left. stop was Port Logan, a picturesque village on the west coast of Rins of Galloway, with a pier, a lighthouse and a lovely beach. Following the road back up north, we moved towards the west coast, and the first stop was Dunsky Castle. Dunsky Castle is located half a mile south from Port Patrick, and it's a ruined tower house, or a castle, that was built in the mid-16th century. The most attractive part of the castle is the location, situated on the top of the cliff with panoramic views over the sea. We were lucky to get there for sunset, which made the views even more spectacular. Having driven a little further up the west coast, we found a little park up for the night in the small town of Caerlaverock and continued the journey the next morning. The one stop that we had to make on the way is the famous Electric Brae, a stretch of road in South Ayrshire that defies logic, where a free-running vehicle will start to run uphill on its own. The term electric comes from a time when it was wrongly suggested that there was an electric or magnetic force in this area. We now know that this is just an optical illusion, caused by a specific configuration of the land on either side of the road, which makes it look like the slope is going the other way. Our last stop on the west coast of Scotland was Dunure Castle. The castle dates back to late 13th century, and it has been a ruin for the past 300 years. It's an impressive looking castle which stands just at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the small village of Dunure. Today the castle is only partially accessible to visitors, but it's definitely worth a visit. For the last part of the journey we headed east, towards Wanlock Head, the highest village in Scotland, and then to Lead Hills, where we had a meal in the highest residential hotel in Scotland, called Hopetoun Arms. Unfortunately, due to heavy rain and flooded roads, some places were inaccessible, but we'll be back again for sure, as this part of Scotland has a lot to offer. Thank you for watching. If you would like to find out more about the places we've visited, please leave us a comment.